Good afternoon and welcome to Birmingham City University, and particularly to this National Apprenticeship Week event. We're here today to really celebrate the work of our employers and to recognise and talk about the work of our apprenticeships. I'm joined by a very esteemed group of colleagues from employers from across the region who will talk to us today about their experiences of managing and running apprenticeships. I'll just ask them to introduce themselves. Colin?
My name is Colin Buckle. I work for Arcadis. I'm a project manager in construction and apprentice ambassador as well.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lee Sanford. I'm the engineering training manager for National Express, and I'm responsible for the delivery of the engineering bus and coach technician apprenticeship in partnership with Southend City College.
I'm Helen Winray. I'm from the Design Bureau Architects. We specialise in healthcare projects. We've got somebody at the moment doing apprentice, Birmingham City University, doing their part 2, which is stage 7 in architecture.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Helen Hurst. I'm the Director of Midwifery at Sandburn and West Birmingham NHS Trust, and we are a provider of many apprenticeships through healthcare, business, admin and higher level apprentices as well.
Hi, I'm Catherine Sumner. I work for the BBC Academy. We work really closely with Birmingham City University on the broadcast engineering degree apprenticeship and also the masters. By a rough calculation, we've probably had almost 100 apprentices through Birmingham City Uni in the last 5 years.
Hi, I'm Kathy Hoff. I'm Group Early Careers Manager for Bakkavor. We're the UK's leading provider of fresh food. We have numerous apprentices, and my responsibility is to look after the apprentices and the grad programmes. We do have, as I said, numerous apprentices across numerous disciplines. However, here today, because we have engineering apprentices with BMET College.
Good afternoon, my name's Andy Moss. I'm Head of Fund for the FSE Group in the Midlands. We help fund businesses who are looking to grow and create job opportunities. And I'm here today as an apprentice myself.
Okay, a very warm welcome to everybody, and I'm sure we're in for a very enjoyable hour and 10 minutes or so. Before I go on, I'd just like to thank Solihull College and University Centre, Southend City Birmingham College, Birmingham Metropolitan College and the Institute of Technology for their support of the day. And for those of you who are engaging and watching from home or from work, if you would like to put your questions in the chat throughout the discussion, then we'll certainly get those answered towards the end of the session. As I said right at the beginning, the aim really is to address some of the big questions associated with apprenticeships and really how our employers address them and take them forward in relation to working both with this institution and institutions across the region. So, Colin, if you don't mind, I'm going to come to you to start with, and really just to ask you a broad question around what works and what can be improved with the apprenticeship levy.
Thank you. So for me, actually, the apprenticeship levy is a really good thing. It's encouraging employers to actually take on apprentices, to invest in future skills, because there's clearly a shortage, especially in the construction industry. I think I've been involved with apprentices for about 15 years, and there probably was a lull sort of around 2010 to 2012 before the new degree apprenticeships were really brought in, and I think this has forced people to actually invest more in that. But I think from larger employers that do have to put into the apprenticeship levy, I think they've come to be used to it and figured out how to actually operate and work and actually get the benefit from this. But there probably is an issue around smaller to medium-sized businesses. So even just last week we were talking to one of the colleges. They deal a lot with the sort of the level 3 MVQs and level 3 apprentices. And for those where they've got employers that are the smaller end of it, especially below 50 people, they actually really struggle to actually have the levy account and to operate it and to find the time to actually, especially do the paperwork effectively to administer it. And it's a real shame because there's a huge opportunity there, but they're really missing out. They want to get involved, but they can't. So there's maybe more there actually around the apprenticeship levy, even though it is pushing employers to get involved, it's producing these opportunities.
there's probably a piece around there, around administration. Can we do more to actually help out with some of the different sized businesses? And there was something that we were looking at as an industry. We held an event on Friday. Is there more that larger employers can do? So we have the administration already set up. We've got people who administer our accounts. Can we do more to actually support those smaller and medium-sized businesses that are struggling? So as opposed to just looking directly at your own apprentices, it's about, is there more different businesses can do between us all to actually help out? Because ultimately it's about producing opportunities for apprentices. That's crucially what the whole point of this is to give other people opportunities. So if it's us helping another business, not for financial gain, not to try and win a tender, it's actually purely to, between us all, we've got a skill shortage, do something about it. And I think we should. We've also certainly found that when it comes to people coming into our business, my previous employer as well, I think there was with graduate programs, there's probably certain standards or bars that people expect when they set, whether they go for people 2-1s or first aid, whatever that bar is. But actually we've found with apprenticeships, we've got people that have come and joined us now that probably wouldn't go to university. They wouldn't really look at employers like ourselves to look through an office or through a more sort of global sized business. We're getting different people with different perspectives coming into our business now. And when later on when it comes to diversity and inclusion, for us, I think that's a really key point. It's offering different perspectives that, if I'm honest, we may not have always thought about before. We've got different people with different views coming in and challenging us. So again, from actually having the levy, I think it's a great thing. There are challenges. There's definitely a lack of understanding, I think. A big part of my role in our business has been helping the business and line managers like myself to actually understand what we need to do. And again, through some of the industry events, I think that's the case. There's a lot of people that have got, they want to get involved in apprenticeships, they want to support them, want to be offer it, but actually then when you come to implementing it, it's not a particularly easy thing. Every year the rules are refreshed. The first year that I actually read them, I think it was about a 60-page document, 2018, just constantly reading line by line, no pictures, no diagrams, nothing to actually spice it up a little bit. Now there are flow charts, great, but it's what we really need is some simplified timeline, which we've actually tried to put together. We're trying to share, make it really simple. You know, we want to use these, we want to implement apprenticeships. Everybody wants to do it, but it can be difficult to actually understand what do we need to do. And again, the rules are there. It's great, but it doesn't really. It provides different guidance documents between both employers and providers. It doesn't really necessarily tell you how between the pair of you to work together best. Mm-hmm. So again, that's kind of an area I think we've certainly tried to focus on during this year's National Apprenticeship Week, bringing employers and providers together, because I think it's not really down to the apprentices now. It's between us and the providers to make sure between us we're communicating properly, and we can improve things for them, especially around the endpoint assessment, which I'm sure others don't necessarily agree with. It's not the easiest part, and it is depending on which part of the levy and having different rules for different UK regions as well doesn't make it easy. So we have a global business, but even just my involvement is with our UK apprentices. It's trying to advise the business on how we have one standard and one guidance for all line managers, when actually we can't. We have people who manage apprentices in Wales and England, and trying to get them to appreciate the levy says, because the way it's set up, different rules. Mm-hmm. And they're not even just subtly different. It's not the difference between 20 or 15% off the job training. It's one has 20% off the job training and an endpoint assessment. One's integrated, so is a framework that has none. And trying to standardise that across a business to be able to provide guidance it's a challenge. So yeah, there's definitely areas for the levy that I think need to be improved. And I'm aware I've got more involved with people that are involved in that piece that are pushing back, so it's I-Fate and people like that. But I think there's more that could be done with employers to actually to get us involved.
Excellent, thank you. And what's really interesting, despite highlighting some of those challenges, you also really come across passionately about the benefit and the worth of apprenticeships. And you mentioned before sort of the inclusive and the diverse workforce that apprenticeships help support and develop. And Helen, if I can come to you and just ask you to say a little bit more about how really does apprenticeships help support the bringing together sort of the inclusive and the diverse workforce?
Yeah, absolutely. So at San West Birmingham, we are very much part of the local community that we serve. And to ensure that our patients get the best experience they can, and actually our workforce, we need to reflect the diverse population that surrounds us, especially in West Birmingham and out towards Sandwell. And that's not only the diverse population, but actually the age range of the population that we serve. And it's really important to remember that apprenticeships, yes, can be at the very start of your career and at the start of your journey into the working world, but actually they can be at any time. And we've got apprentices within maternity specifically that, you know, they're in their late 40s that are coming on. And we've all got to work longer now, haven't we, with pension ages going up. So we should never stop that lifelong learning. It's really important. And the diversity really brings a wealth of knowledge within our services. You know, how can you treat people that come from different backgrounds if those backgrounds aren't reflected in your workforce? It really is fundamental to the care that we deliver.
Excellent. And Helen, I think you also have some experiences in relation to EDI?
Kind of. I think really because I kind of doing architecture and coming from a kind of male-dominated industry, I've kind of seen the importance of giving other people the opportunity in those roles. So I think things are really improving in terms of appointment, but yeah.
Okay, and Andy, can I come to you and just ask you to give some reflections on equality, diversity, how apprenticeships have helped support
of course.
That area?
Yeah, well, I'm an apprentice, as I said, as part of the intro, and I think I was 52 when I signed up for the apprentice executive MBA level 7 that I'm undertaking, due to finish in October, and I'm at the more mature end of the cohort, but I think and also the mature end of where people would archetypally sort of think of apprenticeship being. So most apprentices are in their 20s, I suppose. But it does, what I found it is really energising to be part of a group where the age range is something like 20 to 25 years. I'm at the wrong end of that age spectrum, but what I'm benefiting from is working with people in different...
And they're at different stages. We talk around them demonstrating what they've actually learnt. It's quite interesting, they don't twig initially, they actually, as part of, they themselves are part of that social piece that's being put into the industry and into the local area of what an apprentice is. It's not just typically like something to do with environment, it's flowers, it's bunny rabbits, the world's changed now. It's actually them themselves and what they're doing, and businesses invested in them as a key part of sustainability as well. As I mentioned earlier, when they're coming through with different ideas, so as a design organisation, especially in civil engineering, raw materials and the use of raw materials is really key, and trying to avoid that in sustainability. And having somebody again saying, well, traditionally we may have used concrete or steel, whatever it is, but they come with different ideas, different perspectives. I've read this, I've seen this, I've actually been down in London, I've seen a bridge that was built out of plastic or something else. You know, they've got different ideas that they're bringing to it. That's brilliant. That's exactly what we need. We need that challenge. So for me, sustainability is, you need people to come and push, and just because you've done it for 20, 30, 40 years, it doesn't mean it's right. It doesn't mean it's right for now. And I think apprentices are a key part of that, to provide that challenge.
And can I just follow up a little bit in relation to that? Do you see the apprenticeship coming forward with those challenges? Do you feel as though they're coming forward with that knowledge and those different views and helping the organisation think differently?
I don't think, if I'm being brutally honest, I don't think directly the apprenticeships are. I think the content of them, but actually as part of, as us as line managers and businesses, one of the biggest areas that I think we need to focus on is around building the confidence of the apprentices because of where they come from, excluding some of those that have been in business before. So being able for us to support them to make that challenge and then supporting them, I think we probably can do more as the employer, not necessarily through the apprenticeship, but I think by supporting the apprentices and giving that encouragement. And things like today, highlighting to them that we do care, we are interested, we're here to support you. Just simple things like that, it helps them to then push on them pushing back at sustainability, to come up with different ideas, not to sort of cower in the corner of a meeting and say, I don't want to say something in case it's wrong. I want them to be strong enough to say something. They might make a mistake. We all make mistakes, but I want them to have that confidence to challenge us all to do that. So I think that's what we can do.
And that's the beauty, isn't it, I suppose, for me, of apprenticeships. It really is about the opportunity to apply sort of theory into practice, and to not only challenge the organisation, but be challenged back, and to work through how best to articulate those views, and to really apply that knowledge gained into the workforce and into work teams.
And that's where the link between employers and providers really needs to create and to make the apprenticeships work. It can't just be done with organisations like yourself. It has to be the employer getting involved and working side by side, understanding what's being done at university. We can't necessarily always apply it straight away in the role, but understanding what they're going through and how we can support that, and occasionally dragging it out. Actually, I know what modules you do in this, or we actually had some of our senior technical directors supporting with coursework for structures and geotech. It's just things like that, and then they get involved in different parts of the business, they get to know people, and then certainly from a confidence point of view, it's brilliant. If I'm honest, the first year after I left uni, I was probably scared to speak to somebody that had director in their title. Didn't do it. Just kept my head down. But now that's the kind of thing I want them to be encouraged to do, to get that confidence, and it can only be a positive towards the apprenticeship.
Okay. Lee, can I come to you? Do you have similar reflections in relation to sustainability?
Absolutely. I agree with Colin to say that sustainability is absolutely key for driving business forward, and our apprentices are a key part of that. I mean, we've been on a journey at National Express, a fantastic journey where we've started bringing in new technologies that have helped reduce carbon emissions in the first instance, which our apprentices then went and helped actually fit and start to learn about whilst on that journey. And then we've started to move that forward now, where we've got a pledge to make sure that our entire public transport fleet will be zero emission by 2030. That's going to involve quite a large change in obviously the fleet and vehicle technologies, but we need to make sure that we bring that into our apprentice programme. Currently there isn't any apprenticeship programme out there to teach our apprentices anything that isn't internal combustion, but there are a lot of bolt-ons, and we're also committed to give our apprentices the skills that they're going to need to move forward. So as we're bringing in battery electric vehicles and now hydrogen, we've got 20 hydrogen vehicles running around the West Midlands. Those are definitely going to be integrated to make sure that the skills that our apprentices get today are also suitable for tomorrow.
And the beauty of the relationship with the university allows also for that feedback from yourselves and the employer back into the programme and the development of programmes as well.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that there's a standard, but appreciate there's also a dialogue that goes on in relation to the content and the way in which learning is delivered as well.
Absolutely. We have a partnership in the true sense of the meaning with Southern City College Birmingham, where we don't just deliver the apprenticeship standard. We are delivering additional modules and short courses and all the additional skills that are outside of the standard, but within that sort of block learning that they do. And for me, it has to be absolutely key that they're ready for the world of work with the vehicle technology change that we're doing. We're very early adopters in things like battery electric and hydrogen within the transport industry, but we're giving them everything that's out there at the moment, and we're working with people like the Institute of the Motor Industry to develop new bolt-on courses. We're an active member of the Trailblazer Group to make sure that we can lobby that group to bring in zero emissions technologies and new pathways. And as other transport companies come on board, I'm hopeful that we can do that pretty soon and start bringing in zero emissions apprentices.
Wonderful. And we really are talking about tomorrow's leaders, and we really are talking about, if we are going to hit our carbon emission targets, then actually it is our apprenticeships that will help take that forward, I think, in relation to that. So that sounds wonderful. Helen, can I come to you as well and just ask, is that a similar experience from yourself?
Yeah, so the Design Bureau, we specialise in healthcare projects. So the NHS Trust is aiming to achieve net zero carbon by 2040. So we need to be working with them and being ahead of the game in order for them to achieve those goals. So what we do as a practice, when we're establishing a brief for a new project, so it's not just our office in terms of how we operate, it's actually the buildings that we're designing. So what we do initially in projects is we firstly identify the need for the scheme. So actually, I know all architects would love to build a nice shiny new build, but actually what we do is look at their existing estate. So a lot of NHS trusts haven't got the luxury of being able to build new facilities. So we'd look at how they use their estate, we'd look at space utilisation, how spaces are used and operate, and could they be used potentially more flexibly. Everybody is now working more flexibly because, you know, people aren't going into the office all the time, so actually the healthcare trusts are also working more flexibly. COVID has led to different ways of working in terms of GPs and even the way hospitals operate. So we would look at that and actually try and integrate that and actually see if is there a need for a project. And even though it isn't a project, we'd be looking at different reconfiguring existing spaces, and that all helps towards achieving low zero carbon. So I think the end result, the last resort should really be to provide a new build, because I think 11% of the global carbon emissions are in the construction industry. So by utilising existing estates more, it's going to help that. It's going to help that situation. And our apprentice at the moment, she came to us as a practice and said they've got a new module, and it was, I think it's called the CoLab, which is a knowledge exchange project. And she said that she wants to work with us on something that the practice needs. So because I know you've been doing it for some time, but it's kind of the beginning of our journey of trying to achieve the goals of the trust that we work with. She's going to look at our sustainability policy as a practice, and she's really enthusiastic about it, and she's going to work with us to try and develop that as a practice, but not only as the office, but also the design principles that we adopt in order to make sure the NHS Trust that we work with can achieve the goals of low zero carbon by 2040, which is a challenge, and you're trying to achieve 2030.
Can I just pick up something, and hopefully not an unfair question, but you talked about the project brief, and does the apprenticeship play contribute to that in terms of challenge, but also learning as that brief develops?
Yes, so doing architecture, we try with the apprentices that come into the office, they try and follow the whole design process. So when you become an architect, you have to kind of tick the boxes of following different work stages, so RABA work stages. So the idea is that they would follow through that whole process. So they would get experience in all those different points. And when they are an architect, they've ticked those boxes and all that sort of experience. And the best experience is kind of working on the job. So, I mean, I studied part-time at university. It wasn't an apprenticeship scheme, but that is the way to go, because you're getting the work experience as you're studying, and they can also help the practice as well as developing their own knowledge on projects. So to me, it's definitely the way to go.
Excellent. Thank you very, very much indeed. Helen, I think you mentioned, as you were talking before, about lifelong learning and the importance of lifelong learning. I'm not going to come to you just yet, but really I suppose I'm going to start with Andy, if I may, and just talk a little bit about sort of how apprenticeships really can enhance, if you like, that real sense of, you know, learning isn't just a point in time, but it is actually about learning over one's lifetime, and about the different stages and opportunities that apprenticeships can provide.
Yeah, it's a kind of really interesting personal thing, I think, that you know, clearly having had a banking career for 3.5 decades and learned quite a lot, I thought. From an organisation like Lloyd's, and also from the clients that I dealt with, mostly in the commercial arena, what the Executive MBA apprenticeship programme has taught me is broadened my mind really to a whole kind of range of academic modules that we're covering, which is then going to sort of culminate in a 4-month strategic work project. So we're directly applying the academic learning to a work project, which will have an outcome. So there's a real benefit for me, and there's a real benefit for employer alike. So I think that's one of the things that I find most engaging about the apprenticeship program I'm on. But also the thing I probably enjoy the most is being involved with the the cohort and talking to the cohort that where we're sharing experiences, we're sharing different backgrounds, we're sharing different generational perspectives, and I've learnt a lot from the cohort that I've worked with. And it really has kind of broadened my my thinking, and on all different subjects. So, for example, organisational design, strategy, innovation, change, and finance as well. So, I think in quite a short time, I've had my kind of institutionalised blinkers taken off, if you like, and it's opened my mind. And I suppose what I would like to do, encourage today and this week, and as I do with people within the FSE Group, is in talking to them about the programme that I'm on, is try and open people's minds and thought process to apprenticeship schemes being applicable for you, whether you're in your 20s or your 50s. This lifelong learning, I know it's something of a phrase that's coined, but it's really something that I feel I brought to life in my own personal career, which has taken a bit of a different direction. So I found it really valuable.
And I'm going to go to Catherine and Helen in a moment about this. But if you wouldn't mind, when you were talking, one of the things I was thinking about was we always talk about lifelong learning for the individual, for the apprentice, for the person it's associated with. But when you were talking, I was also very much taken by the fact that of its impact on the employer and on the organisation itself, and how that also plays with our earlier conversation about inclusivity and diversity. That one assumes that employers should also see the importance of this lifelong agenda in creating a much greater rich mix and diversity of ideas and perspectives as well.
Yeah, I had a one-to-one conversation with my CEO yesterday, which I do off the back of every module, and I share the assignment work that I've done. I share the feedback that I've been given, and I do that with my boss on a more regular basis, and I try and share as much of the content back into the business, if you like, so that they are seeing the executive aspect of it being brought back. So this isn't just an academic process that's going to result in an award. It's actually generating some real commercial value in me as an employee and back into the business. And I think that's changing mindsets back within my business, and I think it probably is in the other businesses as well, where we're kind of trying to integrate the academic learning side with practical commercial value.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Catherine, can I come to you and ask you the same about lifelong learning?
Yeah, so I agree with that. I think so the BBC's been running apprenticeships. Well, I started on what would have been an apprenticeship a very long time ago, where I learned on the job. So the value of that has always been quite a big part, particularly in broadcast engineering and what these guys are doing, broadcast operations as well. It's always been a massive part of the BBC that you learn on the job. And now with the being able to put that framework of apprenticeships onto it, or the standards onto that has increased the amount of learning and the value going back into the business. So I would say that we also do staff apprenticeships as well. So we've got early careers apprenticeships, and we've got about 600 people on programme between staff apprenticeships and early careers apprenticeships. I'm actually doing a staff apprenticeship as well, so I completely concur with everything that Andy said. But what we see is when the apprentices go in to their placements and they rotate through different placement areas, is the knowledge that they're bringing. So, for example, in broadcast engineering, there's a lot of talk about IP and networking technology and NDI, and the broadcast engineers who've been in the business for longer are kind of going, oh, hang on a minute, I use that on a day-to-day basis, but I've never really sat down and thought, how would I fix that? Or well, they know how to fix it, but I need some thinking time. So we're finding that the apprentices going into placements is encouraging more staff apprenticeships. So that's been really interesting. And then I think one of the other benefits to the lifelong learning element is that I know this has happened to me when I was operational as well, is that a new person comes in and you have to train them, and then you go, actually, I do know what I'm talking about because I've had to kind of make it real for them, and I think that's kind of boosted everybody else's ability to train other people, which obviously in the apprenticeships we 100% are reliant on those placement managers, line managers, to be training the apprentices for the 80% that they're not at uni. So I think that's seen a shift, and that speaks to the culture of an organisation as well, doesn't it? And the BBC really wants to be an organisation where lifelong learning is entirely embedded. Well, our mission statement includes the word educate, and we should be kind of training within the company as well. So, I think apprenticeships have been a fantastic thing.
Can I ask a follow-up question, just in terms of what you're saying? From what I sense, your apprenticeships go from different parts of the organisation through. You just say a little bit about that, because that sounds to me also about the way in which the apprentice learns, but also the organisation is able to become much more sort of cross-fertilised in a way by that person moving between the different services.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we were talking about their behaviours, and embedded in the apprenticeship are the knowledge, skills and behaviours that they have to learn, and being able to do, I think ours rotate every 3 months, being able to do a placement with one team, get to know them, and some of these are kind of 18, 19-year-olds, get to know them, and then all of a sudden, oh no, I've got to go and work in that team over there now. I'm going to have to display all of those behaviours that I've learned. So you see a massive increase in their confidence, to what you were saying before, in their confidence, their social skills, just by rotating them through placements. And broadcast engineering in the BBC is kind of like massive. You can do project, you can do support engineering, you can do all different types of engineering, and the standard is quite broad in that respect. So in order for them to tick all the KSB boxes, they do need to do that, but there's an intangible benefit to that, which is their confidence and their ability to, their resilience as well, I think.
And when you were talking, I was just thinking about, you know, not just the lifelong learning, but the learning organisation. I think you've just presented that really nicely, the sense that actually the organisation itself benefits very clearly from that learning sort of working throughout its services and its layers. And Helen, you would know that I'd come back to you because you mentioned lifelong learning 20 minutes ago. So do you want to say a little bit about how that then plays out in your experience?
Yeah, I think everybody's used to nurses, midwives and doctors having lifelong learning embedded within those professions, and we've got to go beyond the traditional routes into those professions, because there's some really high quality, high calibre people out there that just wouldn't choose to do the traditional degree now that is to join those professions, but want to come on an apprenticeship route into those. And that's really starting to make a difference. We've got to have a really sustainable way of getting people into our workplace. We know there's a national shortage. We've really got to start thinking outside of the box, and we're really finding that apprenticeships are helping us with that, really helping with career escalators, so people will come in potentially as support workers or admin clerks, etc., but actually will navigate the way through to having a professional qualification. And then for those that have already got that professional qualification, we've got to sustain our leadership within the NHS, and I think the higher level levies really supported that for us, as Andy was saying. You know, it's really making a difference with those leadership courses that really do have that interchangeable method of bringing people in. It's going to be absolutely invaluable to us. I'm a mentor for one of my EDI lead, actually, who's on her leadership course at the moment, and it's a reciprocal mentoring that we're doing, and I learn as much from her as I open doors and teach her, and it's just got to be the way forward. I think the joy that you both get is immense.
And when you were talking, I was really taking from you. You get a group of people coming in from a rich tapestry of life and experiences and age groups, etc., which provide a real challenge, but also opportunity for the organisations.
Yeah, absolutely. As I say, traditionally it's been a specific route into healthcare professions, hasn't it? But actually then we miss the people that may not have the academic ability to start with when they leave school, but actually are an absolute untapped resource and actually can really sustain a really good quality journey for our patients. And we never stop learning. The NHS is changing every single day. There is new things to learn. I think that's the joy of being in the profession, but actually within the health service, because we've always got to look to the next thing to provide the best outcomes for our patients and reduce those health inequalities that unfortunately are still out there.
Okay. One of the things I think that really is coming across loud and clear for me is a sense of organisations as being learning organisations, and just the passion of the way in which you're all talking about it. You're benefiting from that in terms of the learning. I'm going to ask Kathy, if you wouldn't mind saying a little bit more about, what really do you articulate as those real benefits? If someone's sat listening to this at the moment and thinking that sounds good, but the challenges are hard, what would you say about those benefits?
I mean, well, from our point of view at Bakkavor, the apprenticeships are absolutely fundamental to our talent pipeline. That's the massive benefit to us. We are bringing in fresh new talent at whatever stage they are during their lifetime, bringing them in. They come in with new ideas, they come in with enthusiasm. They challenge us to be the best we can be, because when you've got somebody saying, why should I do it that way? Why do you do it that way? We need to bring our A game and be able to explain that. But as I said, absolutely intrinsic to our talent pipeline. At any one time, we've got, usually we have about 300 apprentices across the estate all over the UK, doing a number of, studying in a number of different functions. And that is made up of existing colleagues who do apprenticeships as part of their own professional development, as well as new hires, because annually we bring in new people as well. So last year we brought in 40 new people. At the moment we've just gone live this year. We're bringing in 60 new apprentices this year to join the cohort. But as I said, they are very much all different functions. And we see it, we're not just bringing people in for a job with training. We want people to join us for a career. We want them to come into the industry. And we're very much about showing them what we can do and what the opportunities are as well. Because obviously as a food manufacturer organisation, people see the factories and just think, is it just operations? And of course that is absolutely key priority, but there are so many things that we can do and we can offer. So marketing, development, administration, engineering, supply chain, logistics, communication, there's all that stuff that goes into this organisation that people can join and tap into. So we're very much about bringing people in and as I said, allowing them to join the organisation and then do their apprenticeship, and then we want them to stay with us. So we would like them to progress, we would like them to move sideways, move upwards, change functions. As I said, we just want them to bring them in and to harness that passion. As I said, we're just so keen for this, and it's as I said, we have apprentices all over the estate. One of the things we're working on at the moment is very much bringing them together as a cohort, because when, as I said, we're quite a diverse, large organisation, and we don't want the apprentices to think that, for example, I'm an apprentice in Spalding. We don't want them to think that they are a lone apprentice in Spalding. We want them to know that they are part of a cohort. They are one of Bakkavor apprentices. I think you'd alluded to that, the fact that as part of a cohort. So we're very much about bringing people together and building them as a cohort. And on the back of that, as I said, we've at the end of last year, we started a partnership with BMET for our engineering apprentices. Historically, our engineers have gone to different providers all over the country, to local providers. But we wanted to go for a national single provider for consistency and quality. But we also wanted our cohort of engineers to train together, so that so when they're doing their on-the-job training, they're at whichever site they're based at all over the UK doing good stuff. But then they come together for 6-week blocks at BMET, and then suddenly they're our cohort of they're Bakkavor engineers training together, and that is working so well. As I said, it's just that so that they can see the passion we've got. And then the other thing, the other benefit for us of working with BMET is that our apprentices are not just learning the national standard, the national way of doing things. We also work with BMET to Bakkavorise stuff as well, so that the apprentices are learning the national standard and they're also learning how we do it, so that our nuances and the things that we do differently. So, as I said, so within our business, we can really, really see the benefits of having apprentices. It is definitely a medium to long-term solution for skills gaps, but that's all part of the planning. So for example, where we know we've got natural attrition, so people retiring, leaving the business in 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years' time, that's what our planning is now, that we are bringing people through, because then we know that in 4, 5, 6, 7 years' time, they will be ready to be sort of moving up into those roles. So as I said, that's absolutely fundamental to us. Really, as I said, so proud of our apprentices.
Okay, excellent. Really, really good articulation, I think, there of benefits. Now, you'll be pleased to know that I've sort of come to the end of my list of questions. You may not be pleased to know that I have a set of questions from those that have been listening in, which is super in relation to my role at least, but not necessarily yours. Some are directed at individuals, some are directed just at the panel. I'm going to just start with the panel, if I may, so it'll just give a sense of who wants to go first, but some really useful questions here. First one, just for the panel in general, in relation to the advancement of new technologies, what do you view future roles in your organisation to look like, and how does the apprenticeship offer support that? That's a hard question, but a really important question given the growth of new technologies and the advancements, and I can see that across all of your experiences. So who would like to tackle that? Colin, would you like to go first?
Sure, might as well. So probably something I thought about afterwards, actually, from earlier. There is going to be a challenge between what the topics included in the apprenticeships. We're talking about sustainability and future technology. It's going to be really difficult to keep up to speed. So while the apprentices are learning one thing, technology is just racing off and improving it in us as the employers. And I suppose even from you as the providers, it's going to be difficult how you maintain keeping up to date with technology just year by year. You probably, you can't use the same thing. I don't know the answer, but I think probably the employers and providers being a lot closer. So what we as the employers are not only using now, but what we're thinking about, what piece of technology are we looking at 2 years, 3 years, 5 years out? Maybe it's more of a research piece where the two are coming together. We've got students and apprentices that are doing that work for us and are feeding back into both businesses to trying to get ahead of the curve. Maybe the solution, but I think it's going to be really tough just to keep everybody at the same pace.
Yeah. Lee?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, it's around constantly horizon scanning, looking at the strategic piece. Certainly within vehicle technology, we know zero emissions are coming. We know battery electric is already there, and the hydrogen infrastructure is being built. So I think it's really key that the employers push people like the accrediting bodies, like the training providers, and if need be, go into partnership with them to help start delivering the skills now. I mean, it's a really good piece about we're training people today for 7, 8, 9 years' time. That's exactly the journey we're on. As our fleet diversity changes and it becomes more zero emission, we need to make sure that we've got the people with the right skills in the right place to take us along that journey. So we're not training people for now, we are training people for those new technologies, and we are pushing the boundaries to make sure that we can get all the right people on board to deliver the training that they need. But it's not a one-stop thing. It doesn't just start and stop today. It's whatever we advance today, we need to take another step tomorrow and continue along that journey, pushing those boundaries for the technology, because as you quite rightly say, it's not going to stop advancing.
Really, that's for us about those standards themselves need to be iterative, need to be developmental, and need to be constantly moving forward as well. So to keep the learning current. Helen or Kathy, do you want to pick that up?
Just to come in on that, I think as an employer as well, I think one of the things we can do is get involved in those trailblazer groups. We've actually taken part in several of the trailblazer groups for the development of some of the standards, and I think that really helps of where we're in at the foundation of the standard, and we're actually having those discussions with other employers about what we need, what technology is on the horizon, what do we need to be aware of, and then subsequently what do we actually need to be training those apprentices in. And I think that's a key part where we can get involved to help to drive some of that as well, to make sure that those skills are then translated into our needs.
Okay.
I think I agree. It's vital. I'm the trailblazer lead for a very small niche, the broadcasting ones, and also the outside broadcast ones that we're reviewing. COVID has changed the way that we're doing broadcasting. It's a lot of it more is in the cloud. People are sitting at home a lot more. The process of the Trailblazer Group and redefining a standard takes quite a long time. Mm-hmm. And I suppose if I had a wish, that it would be that we could put amendments in, and that'd be a lot easier to do. And that is why some standards are very generic, because we've been trying to future-proof them without really naming technology. So yeah, from sitting in that Trailblazer Group, it is quite difficult, but completely concur that we need as many employees as we can. I think there's a minimum of 10 per group, but that needs to happen all the time.
Excellent. Now, you wouldn't have thought a conversation like this would take place without mention of the B word, Brexit. And we do have a question about Brexit, which is important, I think. Has Brexit impacted on your recruitment in your organisation, and how are you meeting that challenge? How would anybody like to tackle that? Lee?
To say, certainly with recruitment of apprentices, the answer is no. There hasn't been any impact at all. We still get many candidates that apply for our roles within our business, and we haven't seen any impact at all for apprenticeship applications. I'm not too sure if that's different in other industries, but certainly with us, we haven't seen any impact at all.
Is that the same for everybody? Andy?
Yeah, I think that's a fair point, actually. We try and lend money to businesses that need our type of funding across the Midlands Engine Investment Fund geography. So, that's a big geography from Grimsby across to Stoke, down the Marches to Hereford, and across to South East Midlands, LEP, including Luton. So it's a big definition of the geography of the Midlands. But that is the 10 LEP geography. And what you've got within that geography is a lot of different sectors. If you go over to the east, where you've got a lot more arable and growing, then you come over to the West Midlands, where you've got obviously more manufacturing. And I think that it does depend on one of the key challenges facing SMEs is labour supply and the right skill level within that labour supply. So there's and employment's strong, isn't it, at the moment? So I do think that Brexit has had an impact on labour availability and labour capability, and is one of the things that we are trying to help businesses with their funding and their planning is to upskill people. And again, the apprenticeship is part of that programme as well. So naturally, Brexit, I think, has created certain challenges to UK PLC. I think we're seeing some of those wash through as we adjust to life outside the EU. So another big challenge they're facing SMEs at the moment is supply chains and some of the challenges that logistically are created through supply chain challenges, raw material costs, and one of the key reasons, of course, is the issue of COVID. So I do think Brexit has had an issue, particularly for SMEs, but I do think it's more sector-led. So some sectors have suffered worse than others.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to keep going with the questions from the online chat. And Nasser in the online chat asks, employers play a pivotal role in the success of apprenticeships. Is there a forum for employers to exchange knowledge and best practice? Super question. Colin?
Actually, one of the reasons that we organised a session in the construction built environment for last Friday was because we weren't sure if there were the right kind of forums out there. There are forums, but for what we were looking at for bringing employers and providers together, we couldn't find that. So I think there are some, but I don't believe there's essential. I mean, some of the stuff I've learned so far today would have been great, and I intend to steal some of the things I've learned and take them back to my own business. I don't think maybe across all our sectors and disciplines there is a central forum. I think we're kind of left to ourselves, but I do think from even my own personal experience, I steal things from different sectors. When I move to different jobs, I'm not just a civil engineer. I've worked in building, M&E, local town planning, all sorts of bits. I pinch the best bits. I take them with me back to my sectors because that's the great thing. So I think there does need to be somewhere better so I can steal more ideas from these.
But that might be a nice thing that the university could provide that
would be
an opportunity
yeah.
to bring employers together.
Absolutely.
And that's something that I'll take forward perhaps in terms of bringing different employers together to learn from them.
I've been involved in the community of practice setup, which Glasgow University, one of our other learning providers, did, which was for software, everybody that was doing the software engineering apprenticeship, all the employees, and that was just brilliant. So we had a few sessions where we talked about recruitment, or we talked about sustainability actually, and other things, and that has been really good. So yeah, I guess that would be great to come from the uni because you've got all those contacts.
I was hoping to give everybody else a bit of work to do outside of here rather than take some myself. No, more seriously, I think that's something that the university really could do. Helen, you've had a question directed at you, okay. So if you don't mind, I'll pick this up. How did you work hand in hand with the university to develop degree apprenticeships? That's a really interesting question in relation to the audience out there.
Yes. So I think it's easier for the NHS because of Health Education England. So lots of schemes are functioned through the provision of Health Education England. I can talk very personally about the apprenticeship scheme that we've got for our maternity support workers. We work with 4 higher education providers within our organisation, and for our foundation degree for our maternity support workers, we reached out because every university has a health and science faculty within it, and we reached out to BCU to support the start of the foundation degree within that faculty. I didn't reach out. It was led by our clinical educators and by our apprenticeship leadership team. But actually, we navigated it really quite quickly and very, very smoothly. We got our first cohort running within 4 months of those initial discussions. And it's just been a fantastic experience for the cohort that are on. One of the cohort, it was on the communication earlier, and I think we even came out with the Apprentice of the Year for BCU this year. So it really does provide such fantastic opportunities for our staff. But yeah, I hope that answers the question.
It does.
It's a little bit tricky being a director of midwifery answering that one, but I can answer it to the best of my knowledge, I hope.
It is, and I sense, you know, I'm someone who's also developed apprenticeships from a university perspective, and the bit for me, these really are about partnership.
They are.
It's not easy sometimes because there are different cultures, different expectations, different expectations on speed or timeliness or whatever. But actually, the product, the end point, really is a strong partnership in terms of university and organisation. But also then you see a very clear relationship in that tripartite between the student, the learner and the organisation and their peer support network as well.
Absolutely. I mean, our link educator for our apprenticeships, especially our maternity support workers, has been invaluable. And she links with our clinical educators within the maternity service to support the maternity support worker who's part of the cohort. You know, and those regular meetings just really brings it all to life, doesn't it? It is a partnership. Without the university, we can't provide, and without us, the university can't provide the best for the student. So it's just invaluable.
Yeah. And if you're an employer out there thinking, well, should I organise this? It is hard work.
Yeah.
And it does require additionality in relation to resource, but the benefits.
Absolutely.
Really,
I think we were
there.
quite lucky because there were foundation degrees that had already started within BCU for maternity support workers, so it didn't take so long. I think if you were starting from the very beginning, because we've also got a high dependency course that's supported by BCU, that does take a lot more time, and of course you've got to get the regulators in to say that it's at the standard it needs to be. But the opportunities are out there. You just need to grab them, because the benefits to the organisation or whatever business that you run are just invaluable.
Yeah, and if we have that forum, perhaps we can share some of that work up front as well. Lee, I mean, is that your experience in relation working with the college, I think, as well?
Absolutely. It's got to be a partnership agreement to set it up. I mean, we took nothing, essentially, which was a big open space, went in partnership with the college. We built a fantastic learning facility that is a replica of one of our garages, and there's regular communications. I think that's absolutely key, but it's not just between us and the learning provider. There's a feedback loop as well from the students and the apprentices, and things they say absolutely make a massive impact on what we do and how we change it. So we've been on a big learning journey, but I think we've got a fantastic proposition at the moment that's giving the best for our students.
Okay, excellent. Now, this is a broader question for the panel. And we've talked about lifelong learning. We've also talked about transitions as well. As someone at the start of their career, do your organisations have a pathway from entry level to management through apprenticeships?
I suppose that's possible. I think that's something that we need to work on, actually. But we have had, just here at BCU, we've had people that have done the degree apprenticeship, gone into the business, worked for a couple of years, and are now doing the staff apprenticeship. And then the other thing is that they are now the team leaders that are managing the new apprentices. So we've got that kind of critical mass now of apprentices in the business. So yeah, but that pathway route, we've just been talking about it recently, about what extra leadership training can we supplement that with, so that not only have they got the subject matter expertise, they've also got the leadership training. So that is something that we're hoping we can join together a bit more and have that as a route. Definitely. And then before apprenticeships, and I know we're not really talking about that, but we're looking at traineeships as well, and T-levels, so that you start, I think you were saying that you start that pipeline a bit further back as well. So T-levels feed into apprenticeships, which could potentially feed into other career paths further up.
And it's partly, I suppose, dependent also upon the availability of the standards as well, and how those standards map against particular areas. Colin, do you want to?
We don't necessarily have one that starts at apprenticeship going through to management, but from actually some of the feedback from the apprentices, it's quite a long journey when they start out at, say, a 4 or 5 year long apprenticeship, and some have actually feedback that maybe they want to be able to have a break after 2 years. Maybe this isn't the direction they actually want to go in. And so, yes, it's great that, you've got the commitment, we're going to invest in you, you're going to have this after 5 or 6 years, but there's also the option that maybe that isn't the right choice for them. So, in fact, we were talking about this today. We're looking at the apprenticeships, are kind of like that foundation, giving people lots of skills, especially transferable skills, that not just for engineering or built environment. They can be using any single one of ours is around safety, communication. They're the same principles. And then at the end of that, you decide, I don't want to be a civil engineer anymore. I want to go and try something else. Great, you've got something out of that period, out of that apprenticeship that you can take to any degree. So I suppose there is one point of looking at like a route from the start through to the end of my career, but I think actually one of the exciting things is actually you don't know where your career is going to go. I had no idea I'd end up here today. I had no idea I'd work for Arcadis when I set out. Lots of things have happened to me that were just opportunities, and for me that's the really exciting thing that I've learned. I didn't expect that my career would be so many opportunities and meeting people as well. And just having a go at things, and again, even for apprentices. So it doesn't mean that until you complete your apprenticeship, you can't try something different. There's not a program. We talked about leadership programs and things like that. It doesn't mean you have to wait till the end of your apprenticeship. If there's something you want to go for it. It doesn't matter whether you're an apprentice starting out or a graduate or whatever stage you are in your career. As we've talked about staff apprenticeships, if you want to do it, why not?
Okay, excellent. I'm very conscious of time and very conscious that we're coming up to the end now, and I'm conscious that I think there's 8 of us, but I'm not going to ask the question to myself. So just a very quick question, just round robin, if you like. We have an audience out there, very interested. Some may not be delivering, some may be delivering, but want to take further. Just a single sort of bit of advice, if you like, to employers out there in terms of what they'd do. And we've got just a minute left, so just really quickly. Colin.
Read the rules, understand what you're getting into, and then commit to it if you're going to start it.
Lee?
To not hold back with actually taking on apprentices, because they are the future.
Okay.
Spend the time to train the apprentices, and the company will benefit from that.
It's a two-way process. It's invaluable and it's such a joy.
Celebrate the successes as you're going along. Don't just wait for the graduation.
So yeah, for me it's all about the investment. So make sure that if you're taking on apprentices, you've got the time that you can invest into them and those skills to pass on, and you will reap the reward from that.
Open up the knowledge of the benefits of the apprenticeship programme to all of your staff, so that all of the age range of your people know and understand what they could be missing out on.
Thank you very much indeed, everybody.